Okay, so we're going to get ready right now. What are you doing?
That's my breathing exercises.
Why are you doing a breathing exercise? What is that, like, you swimming?
We about to go on audio.
Okay, this is so awkward to do this with somebody. Like, what the heck? Oh, my goodness.
I don't believe in awkwardness.
Whatever. Let's just get into the damn show. Hey everyone, it is your girl Lexi Wilson, and you are tuned into the Lexi Wilson podcast show. And let me tell you, this is not your mama's podcast show, okay? We can go from 0 to 100 and... Okay, that is a great example of exactly what you can expect from this show. Sometimes we're going to be really serious and we're going to talk about really heavy topics like mental health, professionalism, being your own boss, spirituality, learning how to, cope with all the stress and anxiety that comes with being a millennial type of girl in this kind of world. But sometimes we're also just going to have a little bit of fun because I'm a little bit of a hot mess. And, I've tried so hard to try to fit into certain molds so I can, be the professional type of person that you see, laughing with a Starbucks cup in a photo. But the problem is I don't fit that mold, and I'm sure you don't either. And that's why this show is created. Instead of me waiting until I have everything perfectly tied in a bow and I look great and all these other things, I've decided to take messy, aligned action. I knew that this podcast needed to be created, so... yeah, I always got to make room for the beat drops. You know what I mean? Because that's what life is all about, making room for all of the things that happen, taking messy, aligned action, and moving forward when you feel inspired and encouraged to do so. So, if you are down for conversations about spirituality, personal growth, and all of those things, then this is your show. This is so for you. I want to encourage you. I want to empower you. So let's go. Oh my goodness. You never know what awkward feels like until you have to listen to your intro in front of someone else. And then when you're doing things like laughing because this person has never actually heard your intro and you laugh at the same time and in the same way that the intro is, that's gold.
Y'all, the Lexi Wilson podcast show audience. Somebody else told me that they love that intro as much as I do.
Why he was like bouncing his head, especially when the beat drops, y'all. I know y'all ain't ready for it.
When the beat drops. It's too long, but I love it. I swear.
I know, it's so long. I think every episode since I've done that intro, I've always been like, y'all, that is the longest intro of ever. So I have to actually learn how to be concise, but I have a problem with that.
I'm here for every part of it, though.
Yeah. So if you guys don't recognize, there is now a co-host, which is really awesome.
The co-host with the most.
You don't have to breathe so hard into
all right, I don't know. Can you teach me offline, please?
I have a feeling that the majority of this thing is going to be me just laughing.
Hey, I'm going to leave y'all with at least 3 nuggets today, though. At least 3.
At least. So, no, but yes, you guys, this is my amazing man, the man of the hour.
Don't talk me up too much.
Right?
This is Torino. You guys out there probably know me as Jason.
JC Wasey.
Come on. This is what we're doing?
The next time y'all see him, y'all.
On the first podcast that we co-host ever, you gonna call me JC Wasey.
Basically, because that's the vibe.
All right, this is JC Wasey, y'all.
Coming at you live.
Coming at you live on the Lexi Wilson podcast show.
Even the name is really long.
I'm just saying.
Like, again, but I'm just so not... I'm really creative
just
until it comes to, like, names.
Just
then it's just like...
It's fine. I mean, it's okay.
But if you come on the show a lot, then how am I going to keep it
I mean, I don't know. We'll figure it out. I believe in you.
But then we'll just have a really long intro shot. Anyway, you guys, today I'm super excited about today's. What are we looking for? The cat?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, hopefully you won't hear the cats. We have 2 baby cats. Well, they're not babies. One of them is literally 18 years old and 1,000,000 years old in cat years. They get very needy when they hear us talking because then they're like, why are you guys having fun? What about us? So
Exactly.
I apologize, but this is real life. This is what, this is all about. But today's episode, I'm really excited because we're talking about, as you can tell by the title, all of the things the greatest lessons that failure has taught us, which is hilarious because lately we've had a lot of successes, especially today. A lot of great things happened. But I know I've done quite a few episodes on failure. I think it's just because this topic is so necessary because we tend to fail more at things in life than we succeed. And we don't talk about it enough, number one, to kind of normalize it so we don't feel bad when we fail. But 2, we don't talk about like how it can be actually a really good thing, And so today we're going to kind of share, which we haven't practiced this. So it's going to be interesting to see the different perspectives of what failure has taught us or the similarities. Who knows?
Exactly. And speaking of different perspectives, though you may think you... Oh, Lord. Though you may think that you talk about failure often, I would contend that you don't talk about failure often enough, because here's why. We fail often every day in our lives. I failed last night by not brushing my teeth before I went to bed.
What in the world?
Listen,
why would someone... This is literally public.
Are we being honest
and
with
we'll
each
be
other
forever...
or not?
We'll be forever available.
I thought we were being candid with people. Listen.
So wow.
I have great teeth, all right? I have great teeth and no cavities, okay? I brush my teeth on time most of the time.
Most of the time.
I'm just saying.
85%.
What you gonna do when you go camping?
You take toothpaste, you put it in your mouth.
I mean,
what do you mean when you go camping? You
listen,
can still take a toothbrush and some water.
I'm just saying.
What kind of camping is he going on, people?
All right, stay on the point. Stay on the point. The point is, we fail every day in our lives, right? We fail. We make decisions. I ate after 10 o'clock last night. I woke up this morning with heartburn. I felt like trash, right? We fail every day. And so I don't think we talk about failure often enough because it happens every day and we need to normalize it because it happens every single day. So,
True. Yeah. No, I feel you on that. I think that's true. That it's like we all have these goals that we set. And even if it's something as basic as brushing our teeth every day, twice a day, people, okay? But but it's like at the end of the day, we have to talk about it and we have to figure out, I think if we talk more about failure, 1, it wouldn't feel so abnormal when it happens because it's going to. But then 2, you won't feel so like behind or like something's wrong with you. Why does so-and-so seem to have it all together and they never fail, but we do, whatever. You won't have that same thought process. You'll be able to know how to bounce back from your failures a lot faster because you'll recognize that it's just a part of the journey. So with that being said, let's just get straight into it. So should I start or should you?
Oh, can I start first?
Well, I mean, gentlemen first.
Oh, please.
We're all about equality on this show.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. This is the Jason Forbes on the Lexi Wilson podcast show. All right. I'm going to be serious for a second. I'm going to steal her mic. I'm going to put it back in a second.
Yeah, but you need to make sure I have room to talk too.
All right, I will. We're about equality on this show.
As you take the mic.
I'll put it back. All right, y'all. The first lesson, the first nugget I'm going to leave with you guys today has to do with resiliency. Remember, we're talking about the greatest lessons that failure has taught us. And this is my number one lesson that failure has taught me. All throughout life, resiliency has been the greatest story ever told. It was the story of Jesus going and dying on the cross. It was the story of the caveman making the first tire and lighting the first fire. It was humankind being resilient in a world that's meant to deteriorate and resources that are meant to be used. Our entire lives have been a story about resiliency. I can make an argument that none of us that are listening to the podcast or that are sitting here today would be here because I'm sure each and every last one of you have had a life-threatening something or another in your lives that was like, oh man, I might not have been here today if this didn't happen. And so we're talking about a story of resiliency when it comes to the greatest lessons that failure has taught us. And resiliency is one of the biggest things, because if we never failed, we would never be prepared to be resilient, right?
Yeah.
And so if things were just handed to us our entire lives, that's why we talk about and we joke about people with silver spoons in their mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And so the greatest CEOs and the greatest leaders have been through failure. They've been through the ringer and come out on the other side, and now they know how to deal with it, you know, when the shit hits the fan. Can I curse on this?
Well, you did, so.
Okay, so.
Because we're going to use the explicit cursor, Apple. Okay. No, but yes, you can.
You know, but.
There's been much darker things said on this show.
Oh, excellent. Great. I got a lot of wiggle room.
All right.
So the best leaders and CEOs in life have been through the ringer. You know, and so what ends up happening is you do build this layer of resiliency where it's just like, I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if I fail 99 different times. I'm going to try the 100th time because I believe in this dream. I know that I can do it. And I know that the only thing that's holding me back is this fear of failure. And so the greatest thing that failure has brought in my life has been this sense of resiliency. And it's just like, that's not just in business, that's in life.
Yeah.
That's being resilient in relationships. I'm going to be candid.
You got to let me talk too, you know.
Okay, I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to be candid with you guys though.
Here we go.
They're talking about building resiliency in relationships. We started dating.
Oh, jeez.
15 years ago, right?
Right.
I broke up with her within 3 months.
Exactly.
Of when we first started dating. Worst mistake I've ever made in my life.
Worst.
Right? But if we weren't resilient, both with each other, we wouldn't be sitting down here today. And I can't tell you how many times prior to this in the last, our last few years have been excellent. It's been great. It's been the best time of my life. The first 10 years prior to that has been a lot of up and down, right? We were college sweethearts. We met each other when we were in school and we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And it was like, sometimes I had to be the one to come back. Sometimes she was the one that come back. Sometimes we both came back together. Sometimes we both were like, screw you.
Exactly. Never make that mistake again. That guy's a loser.
Exactly. You know, and now we're here today on the Lexi Wilson podcast show. So, you know, you guys, there is value in resiliency. You have it in your relationships. You have it in your relationships with family, with friends, with loved ones, in your business, in your own personal life, to build the resiliency to when you fall down to get back up, when you gain a couple of pounds to go back to the gym, when you don't meet a goal that you wanted to meet, to go back and try again. Those are things that you need in your everyday life.
Well, I think too that it's like, and you don't have to, we can share it. Okay. Sorry, he's like moving it around. Got to teach him the little things.
Equality.
Whatever. Anyways, you don't have to be so deep in the mic.
All right. I don't know.
But no, I think that's such a good point, because that's so true. And that's probably one of the most important things about, sorry guys. One of the most important things about failing is that it does teach you how to be resilient, how to get through things, how to come back stronger. And that kind of piggybacks off of something that I'll mention as well. Once we'll go back and forth, like you do one, I'll do one kind of thing. And so it piggybacks right into that. But I think that's such an important thing. I'm glad that we started with that, because at the end of the day, the biggest lesson that you can take away from failure is that you can come back from it. And that not only will you come back, but you will come back stronger, because you have wisdom that you would not have had if you did not fail. Every great thing that we have, even down to electricity, came out of someone also failing a lot of times before we could actually get what we want. So I really like that point. And the reality is too, using the example of our relationship, is the fact that it's possible very much to fail at something like love and still be able to come back from that, but better. Because like you said, we met literally 15 years ago, not around this time. 15 years ago is when we got together.
the first time, but then we had met in like July. 15 years ago. So with that being said, you know, it's like, and we were young, we were babies. So we truly didn't know what we were doing. But the reality is our relationship failed that first time. And we know so much more about forgiveness, about listening, about temper tantrums.
Yeah. I wish that I could describe her face for podcast nation out there.
What up? I'm a very passionate person.
I wish that I could create a GIF from that just now.
But it's true, because it's like so many times we have made some major failures in our relationship. Absolutely. And not just even together, but even when we weren't together, just the friendship that we had, we also made some major failures there. But we wouldn't be as strong as we are right now to be able to get through the things that we get through right now if we did not have those experiences to be able to recognize like, whoa, I have to calm down because I need to learn to like shut my mouth right now because I know this is going to get to another level. Like I had to learn that. I had to make, sadly, mistakes in order to understand like I need to set some serious boundaries. I need to be consistent with those boundaries, things like that, or even to learn how to communicate so that way you can be better in your relationship. So it's like you can fail at so many things and be able to come back from it much better if you're willing to do that. Or you could fail and then never try again. But failure does give you an opportunity to learn resiliency and in that way. So I love that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so, okay, so for me, the first thing that I put was, which is like amazing, because tonight I reached a really amazing goal in my business that I've been shooting for all month.
Congratulations.
And thanks, babe. Yeah. So I'm really excited, but at the same time, I failed at another goal. But I'm actually in a really good mood about it because it's and I need you guys to know, I put a lot of pressure on myself and everyone else around me. I have high expectations. I'm a Capricorn. So there's that. But I wouldn't have expected that. But normally if I fail at something, I mean, I will go into a litany of negative self-talk, and Jason knows that. But today I feel so proud of myself because I realized that going for your goals or going for like a dream that you've put, the biggest win from that situation is not necessarily if you actually get what you are shooting for. The goal and the dream is literally to serve as a trigger point to give you something to strive for. If we didn't set goals for ourselves, if we didn't set dreams for ourselves to shoot for, we'd live very stagnant lives and we wouldn't do anything. Like we'd never accomplish anything. But because we have these big dreams and these big goals, maybe it's to make more money, maybe it's to fall in love, whatever it is, you do the work to actually get that goal because there's a belief in you that makes you think like, maybe I could get it, right? So going for your goal, right? In the process, obviously all of us want whatever it is that we're looking for. We want more money. We want the man or the woman or whatever. But if you don't actually get what you want, the things that, if you tried your hardest, the things that you did to actually get to that goal, you just learned how to be resilient. You learned how to overcome your own negative thoughts. You learned how to handle self-sabotage. You learned how to be positive when things aren't going your way. You learned how to be committed and consistent even if you don't know if something's actually working. You know how to have faith when there's no proof at all that anything is actually working in your favor. And those are qualities that you need that help you to become a better human being. Absolutely. And a better person. So even if you don't end up getting the goal, you won just because you learned all those things. Like if you didn't try your hardest to get what you wanted, that's different, you know? But if you actually tried your hardest and you still didn't get what you want, you don't have to feel like, well, now I'm a failure. Like I've said this on the show before, you can't be a failure. Failure is something that you do. You yourself can't actually be that, right? So it's just something that it's like, okay, I failed at this, but you can't become that. So with that being said, it's like you can still walk away from something and say to yourself, you know what? I just learned how to handle self-sabotage, which is a big problem that most of us struggle with, you know? So it's like, if you know how to handle and identify when you're self-sabotaging, do you know how powerful you are? If you know how to ignore your own, and I don't say ignore, I say this lightly because there's a balance here, but if you know how to ignore your own negative feelings, do you know how powerful you are? Like, of course, I'm not saying hide your feelings. I will never say that. I think it's very important to be very, allow yourself to feel what you feel. But I do think that sometimes it's like you can't put too much weight into every feeling, every emotion, which if like my mother heard me say that, she'd be like, what? She thinks that? Because I'm so into like emotions. But the point still being is that if you can learn that like, I don't have to take every negative emotion seriously, every negative thought seriously. Do you know how powerful you are? Because then people can't control you, you know? Yeah. And so it's like, those are the lessons that you need that go past whatever the goal is that you're going for. You need that to just be happier in life. And so that is where failing gives you that opportunity to learn those things. Striving for something and not getting what you want actually gives you an opportunity to recognize like, wow, I learned how to develop a stronger mindset. I learned how to be resilient when things didn't work my way. Absolutely. I learned how to look for the positive in something that feels negative, you know, all of the above.
Yeah, and one of the things that came to my mind today, and I didn't have a chance to talk to you about it, but one of the things that I've been thinking about ever since you mentioned that to me is the fact that it's not about the goal, it's about the journey.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And so just always remembering that, like, yes, it sucks when you fail at a goal that you set for yourself, and yes, you're disappointed in all of those different things. Yeah. However, it doesn't need to be all 100% of the fact about the fact that you failed your goal. Yeah. It can be some about the fact that I failed my goal, but I learned this along the way. But next time I'm not going to make this same mistake. But, you know, I gained this friendship, or I learned this life lesson, or I gained this insight by being able to do this. It's not all about the fact that you just failed. Right. To recognize the fact that you failed, but also recognize the lessons that you learned along the way, because that counts as self-development.
Yeah, and huge. I mean, it made me think of like Thor.
With the long hair, or which one?
Listen, okay, so everyone who knows me knows that I'm really big on a couple of things: Twilight, Titanic, and Thor. The three T's in life. No, I'm kidding. Well, Marvel, not really Thor, but Thor is my. Anyway, a whole different podcast to talk about that. The point about it is that if you watched the last Avengers that came out, and hopefully I'm not spoiling this for you. If I am, fast forward. But, and also, what are you doing with your life? How did you not see this? This is literally September. Get your life together. Get your life in order. But one of the biggest moments is like we laughed at him, but he failed, right, at killing, oh my goodness, Thanos? Thanos, the next T in life. But he failed at that, and it really set him spiraling. And part of the joke was, you know, he gave up, gained a lot of weight, gained a beer belly, all the things, and we laughed at that. But it's also like, that's such a relatable, we're laughing, but that's us. You know, so many times we don't get what we expected. He thought, you know, I'm this mighty Thor, you know, and I wasn't able to actually do this. And as a result of not doing it, so many people died, his friends and literally half of the world, you know, and so he took that on as like, I'm not worthy. And yet that's literally what so many of us do. And we're laughing at it, but it's what we do. And then when he had that moment where he reached for, I'm going to say this name wrong. Mjolnir, whatever, his hammer thing. I always say it wrong.
The hammer.
But when he reached for it and it actually came to him, and he, you know, with tears in his eyes was like, I'm still worthy. And it's like, yes, because although you felt like a failure, right? That taught him so much. Not the act of like losing his friends, not the act, like everything needed to happen exactly as it needed to happen. And so with that being said, it's like he's still worthy regardless of, and his journey, he learned a lot through that process. And one of the things that he learned is that he didn't actually want to be a king of, my goodness, why am I forgetting all the names? Where he's from? Oh my gosh. Why am I literally forgetting the name? And I don't forget this, you guys. I'm such a nerd I was homeschooled, okay? So this is
Asgard.
Asgard, there you go. It's required to know as a homeschooler to be nerdy.
This is why you need to have a co-host, y'all.
Exactly. He helps me with the important parts of life.
Somebody tell Lexi Wilson that I need to be on every show.
You're crazy. But you see, it's like he realized, but he didn't know that until he had that experience. And really think about it. How boring would the story be if they went from, we have a problem with Thanos and then we killed him? No, we don't want that story. We want the journey. Like, that's why we actually, even though we know eventually they're going to kill him, right? We still go to the movie. We still see it because we want the journey. And so that's what life is like, that it's like, we still want the journey. You don't want to actually set a goal and then get it tomorrow. You want the process that's going to take you to get there. That's the point. And so, so that we have to definitely keep that in mind, that there's definitely value in the journey. And I've known that as a fact, but today I actually felt it as a belief that it's like, okay, I have to understand that whatever happens, it's meant to happen as it should. So, okay. Yeah. So I think we kind of beat those points there down. Let's move on. So what's your second?
Okay. So point number 2 that I have for you guys. Again, the topic is the greatest lessons that failure has taught us. And point number 2, nugget number 2 that I have for you guys has to do with the difference between fear and courage. So I want to paint a picture for you guys out there since you're listening on the podcast, right?
Paint it.
So imagine a lioness that is stooped down and a herd of sheep that's running by as quick as they can. A huge herd of sheep. I mean, it goes on a long time, right? A huge herd of sheep is going by. And so this lioness is crouched down in the lion's position, right, getting ready to prey, just waiting for the right time to go and prey on one of these sheeps. And she keeps making a movement that she's going to get ready to jump. And so she pretends like she's getting ready to jump, but she holds back. And the herd of sheep is still going, and she gets ready to jump forward, and she stops again. Something stops her. It's a huge herd of sheep. She might get trampled. Something else might hit her, or she may just miss. And the herd is still going by, and she tries to trounce again, and she just doesn't, and she stays right there, just stricken with fear. And all of a sudden, another lioness comes running out of nowhere, jumps into the herd, catches a sheep, gets on the other side of this huge stampede, and now this other lioness has their meal for the day, right? And so what lesson did that teach us? How many times in life do we stand there where it's just like, oh, that's a cute guy or that's a cute girl, I'm going to go over and talk to them or get their number. Oh man, I really want to stop working this 9-to-5 job that I hate and go out and start my own business, or go do something different, or earn something, or do something where I have more freedom. How many different times in life that we look at those things? I'm going to go to the gym this week finally, or I'm going to eat healthier, I'm going to sleep a little bit better, I'm going to change my choices that I have. How many different times do we stare at those things and we make a move to do it, and we may go to the gym, or we may schedule to go to the gym, or we may pay for the gym membership and never show up and never go, right? How many different times do we do that in our own lives and never make the jump to go in, never pounce, but we just stand right there and we look at it. And then the other lesson in that story is how many other times do we look at the other lioness that ran by and caught the sheep and ate them, and then went, well, what am I doing wrong?
Oh, that's good. Well, what am I doing wrong? That hurt my feelings.
Right, I simply don't understand how this other, lioness could just come in and do this thing that I've been sitting here, preparing for and waiting for and talking about and thinking about and writing down notes. Why am I not as good as this other lioness?
Right.
Why am I not as brave as she is?
Yeah.
Why can't I just jump and get the lion?
Yeah.
I'm jealous of her. Mm-hmm. You don't think, what is it that I can do differently?
Right.
Should I not hesitate the next time I want to go and do this? Should I not conquer my fear? And so again, I want to bring this back to the point, and the point is the difference between fear and courage. Mm-hmm. The second lioness had courage. It wasn't that she wasn't scared that she could have been trampled. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that, something dangerous could have happened to her while that was happening, or something bad was going to happen, or that she was fearful that she was going to miss. She had a dream. She had a goal, and her goal was to get dinner for her and her cubs.
It's a dream.
I mean,
that was the dream.
You know, it is what it is. We all have different dreams. It doesn't matter how big or how small.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that was her goal, and she did what she needed to do to conquer her fear and do what she needed to do, while the other lioness just stayed there and thought about it.
Right. I love that because I am both. I think everybody's both. Sometimes we're the one preying on it, and then sometimes we're the ones taking action. And that is so real because it's like, and that's really where courage comes in. I really like how you made that difference there, because the reality is that exercising courage does not mean the absence of fear.
Exactly.
It's literally taking action in spite of the fact that you're actually afraid.
Right. And
that's what makes you courageous. You wouldn't be courageous if you weren't afraid, you know, then you would just be doing what you're doing. Like, I'm not courageous brushing my teeth, for example, right? Because I'm not afraid to brush my teeth. Right. But I would be courageous if I decided to, I don't know, what's something like super brave? I don't know.
You know, cliff dive.
Yeah, I would be, because I am terrified. Right. But if I did it, it's like that is being courageous because the fear is still present. Right. So that's where it's like, I love that example because the reality is a lot of us sit in the wait, over-preparing, overthinking all the things, weighing the pros and the cons and all this other stuff, right? Strategizing,
saying, "Oh, tomorrow's gonna be the day when I do it,"
and then we never go for it, and then we have the nerve to then look at someone else who is going for it and going, "Well, what does she have that I don't have? Why did she do this? Why did he do that? How come he always gets everything?" And it's like, probably because he takes action. He doesn't allow his own negative thoughts, his own doubts, his own struggles, his own fears to stop him from showing up and getting after what he wants. So that's where it's like, that's the difference there. And when you have that moment of failure, when you realize like, whoa, I missed an opportunity there, you know, you won't, you then realize like, I have to take a different action. And I know we've definitely had so many times where, like, I'm sure you can think of something that comes to your mind, you know, right now, probably while you're listening, where you're like, yeah, I did that. I totally did that. I knew I should have taken action, but I was preparing. I was overthinking. I was worried. I was scared, and it didn't. And then I lost it. And now it's like, why didn't I? Right. And some of them, you know, I'll even go as far as saying some of them are not excuses. Some of them are great reasons. Right. You know, you do want to prepare. You don't want to be dumb and make choices on the whim. Right. So it's like, sometimes it's straight up excuses. But a lot of times it's really good reasons. But if you take too much time to overthink everything and you're constantly waiting for the perfect moment, the majority of life is filled with imperfect moments. That's when things work out. It's not when everything is actually like aligned. It's when everything is like, this doesn't make any sense. We should do that. Like that's when you got to jump in. So, I mean, and that's not always the case. There's, you know, always exceptions to the rule here, but it's like, if you're honestly sitting there waiting for like, well, this is the perfect time to take this trip, it's probably never going to happen. You have to actually just make a choice. Like, you know what? I'm booking that flight to Italy. End of story. And then tell your boss I need the PTO. Then tell you, like, those things. But if you're constantly waiting for the reason or the excuse or the thing or whatever it is, half the time it's like, it's not going to happen. Somebody else is going to take that, and then you're going to be mad that they got it, but you didn't get it.
Right. Or be mad that you waited until the herd of sheep just ran on by. And now you never even, Yeah, I love that one. And I've definitely, you know, a lot of you guys know I work in network marketing, and I've had that experience multiple times, because a lot of what you're doing in network marketing is like, you know, the cool thing is like, you get to pick who you work with, you know, and it's like different than when I worked in social work, where it's like, you just show up to work and whoever's your coworker, like, that's your coworker. Good luck.
You know, exactly. And so it's like the cool thing is that, you know, now I get to pick who are my coworkers. And I remember, this has happened a few times, but the first time that this happened to me, it was probably the biggest times where I recognized, like, I got to go about things differently. Mm-hmm. And one of them being is that there was this girl that I so badly wanted to work with. Like, I was like, I would love to have her on my team. We talked all the time. She was super cool, but I was too afraid to reach out. I was so afraid because, you know, we don't want to come, you know, network marketers can have a bad rap. I didn't want to come off as salesy. I didn't want to come off as pushy or scammy or any of those things. And in my attempt to be so, timid of all those things, she ended up signing up with someone else. And then I felt like, man, I regret that so much. We still became friends, so it's fine. But it was still like, man, that sucked because we could have been sharing this together. And instead, because I was too afraid, I was the lioness just waiting in the background for the perfect quote unquote moment. She was the girl that took action with another lioness who also took action, and now they're running. And I had my moment where I did think, like, what's wrong with me? And why do they get to have this? Like, of course, I had that, like, totally pity me kind of moment. Right. And then I had a couple of friends come to me and kind of just call me out. Like, you're literally not taking action. Right. That's why. And that hurt my feelings. But it was also the thing that's like, man, you're right. Like, I didn't take action, and now I'm really paying the price for that.
Right. And I want to be clear. Us using this analogy doesn't mean that the lioness that came over and pounced on the sheep was always that way. It doesn't mean that
she worked through her issues.
Right. It doesn't.
She took the Tony Robbins classes, and she was like, I'm working through my mindset.
Right. She didn't have to come straight out the womb.
Right.
Killing it. So there's all of us that struggle every day. At some point, she could have been that same lioness that was sitting there ready to pounce and not doing it. And then it was that moment where she saw someone else come and do the same thing that sparked her to go and do that. And I don't want you guys to think that we're sitting up here on our high horse and we don't have struggles to do every day. I'm that same lioness when it comes to going to the gym, when it comes to me wanting to stop working so late and come home earlier, when it comes to me wanting to make healthier food choices, when it comes to so many different things in my life. So I'm not sitting here saying, oh, look at you guys over there.
Yeah.
And you're not brave enough to come and pounce on the sheep. No. I mean, there's things that we all struggle with daily, and there's some points in my life, in business, I feel like where I will be the second lioness that came and pounced on the sheep, but there's other areas in my life where I'm the other one that's sitting over there.
Yeah, I think that's so true for everyone. I think we're both. So it's like you can't judge, because in some areas, same way, where it's like I'm totally the lioness that's ready to go take action, make it happen. And then there's other areas where I am completely lying in wait, waiting for the perfect moment. So I think it's like the lesson there with that too is not to assume that it's like, well, I'm always this, or even that the person that might be the lioness that took action, that she's always that way too, because she's not. There are areas in her life where she's not too. We're both, but there's a lesson in that, Absolutely. So I love that. So, okay. So then for my next thing is that, so this is actually a thing that I stole from my mentor, Jason Rash. Okay. And, but one of the things that he kind of pointed out, in his Instagram stories and to me as well, is that your setback is really your set up for something greater. And I've heard that a million times, but for some reason recently it's become like a really big, thing in my head that it's like, whoa, like that's so true. There's so many times where I have failed at something, so many times. And I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of glad that it happened in that order now, right? Mm-hmm. And so because I realized that if I didn't have things happen the way that they did, I wouldn't, like literally even us, it's like if things didn't happen the way that they did, who knows if we would be together right now, and even in my own personal life, like there were things that I had to fail at so that way I would be in a position to be open to the idea of a relationship, right? And the same thing with him, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But it definitely when it comes to my career, when it comes to college, it took me a long time to graduate, y'all. And I felt really, really behind. But at the same time, like I graduated 2 years later than I intended to. And I always felt really embarrassed about that, especially when it first happened, because I felt like, something's wrong with me or whatever. But in reality, it's like that was the best thing that could have happened to me because I needed that extra time in college, not because of education, but because of personal growth. Like I needed the character development, and college gave me that. The biggest thing that college gave me was character development more than education, more than my degrees. So having that experience of failing that led me to spending 2 more years in school is actually, it really set me up for a better a better mindset about who I am as a woman and as a person, as a leader. All those things happen because I failed. So it's like that setback, quote unquote, was actually the most brilliant thing that could have happened for me. And then even in other areas, whether it's friendships or things like that, that it's like, wow, I felt like a failure because that didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. But at the end of the day, it's also like, no, it's not a matter that it didn't work out. It served the purpose for whatever it was for that time frame. That's not a failure, you know, so much as it's like, it served that purpose. But that moment that it felt like it was a setback was actually propelling you into whatever the next phase of your life is. Whether that even, I mean, I have found my voice as a person because of how many times I have failed at standing up for myself. So it's like, by now not standing up for myself, it set me up to learn how to be somebody who speaks how I feel, who speaks my truth, and just be like, I gotta be honest. Like, I gotta, even though sometimes it's bit me in the ass, but to be like that. But at the same time, it's like, if I didn't have enough times where I didn't take that action, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't know how to like do that for myself, you know? So your set back is really your set up for something greater. It doesn't have to mean that if something doesn't work right now, that it's an indicator that it will never work out, or that there was no value to whatever it is that you failed at.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a great point, and there's been many times in my own life as well where things that you think are things that set you back are actually things that put you on a trajectory to get you to the point in your life where you're at right now.
Right. Oh, totally. So, I mean, even now, it's like I worked in therapy. Yeah. I sell shampoo on the internet. I'm like, what? You know?
To wash your hair.
Right, exactly. But it's like, think about that. That is legit crazy. Yeah. I went and got a master's degree, y'all. Like, I did all this work to become a therapist, all so I can be here to do a podcast. Yeah. You know, like
the Lexi Wilson podcast.
And so, depending on how you want to tell that story, you could look at it as she failed. You know, and I don't see it that way, but depending on how you want to tell that story.
For a long time.
Well, no, and actually you're true. Thanks for calling me out on that, because that's true. I did feel like a failure. And even now, I guess sometimes when I'm having low moments, not even now, fact is, when I'm having low moments, that's where I go to. Like, that's my go-to insecurity, is feeling like I am a failure, which is always why I have to remind you guys that it's not something that you are, it's something that you can do, but not something that you are. But that's something that I tell myself sometimes is, why am I such a failure? When in reality, it's like, one, again, I am not a failure, but just because I didn't meet my quote unquote career aspirations does not mean that everything that I did up until that point is not of value. A lot of what I do as a coach is help people maintain their mindset, maintain their mental health. I mean, that's the biggest part of what I do with my team, is just remind them how to cope with failure, rejection, anxiety, fear. Like, if I didn't train in understanding emotions, I don't think that I could bring that to them, because one of the things that I struggled with was coping, was my emotions. So I wouldn't be able to lead my team on those very issues because I struggled with that. Right. It was going to school and learning how to identify triggers, and even understanding that we even can be triggered. Most people don't know that, you know, they don't understand, why did I get so angry? They don't recognize, like, oh, that's because something's triggering that. Mm-hmm. They don't know that. They don't know about mindset and the fact that the reason why they're afraid to reach out to someone or share their business is because they have a deep-seated root in rejection because they were abandoned as a kid. Like, they don't know that, right? But because of my training, I do, where I'm like, that makes sense. You're struggling with abandonment issues. So that's why now when this didn't work out, it triggered that. And, you know, like, it's like I can go so deep into helping people heal those things so they can show up in their business, in their relationship, whatever it is. So I may have felt like, well, because I didn't end up becoming a professional licensed therapist in the state of Illinois, for example, well, I must be a failure, when in reality, everything I do is like therapy, everything, you know? And so even in our relationship, you know? And so it's like, that's a strength of mine. It's something that I bring to other people the ability to listen to people, to be able to hold space for them.
Yeah.
That's very difficult too. For a lot of people, they are 100% uncomfortable with difficult emotions.
Right.
But because of the fact that I've learned how to handle that, you can cry in front of me, you can get angry in front of me, and it's not going to push me away. Not only do I not get uncomfortable, I love it. I love when somebody's completely like falling apart and just crying. And I'm like, oh, this is everything to me. Like, I love that stuff. and so it's like, but I think could be part of who I am, but I do think my training has helped a lot. So that right there is like, even though I didn't end up doing what I thought I was going to study to do to be career-wise, I'm still doing that these days, you know? Yeah. So that's definitely not a failure, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're just smiling. What's going on?
Sorry, I was thinking about something. But
oh, here we go.
No, it's fine. We'll share it later.
Okay.
I think you should roll on to your number 3.
Okay.
Because I have a really good, really solid number 3.
Okay, good. Okay, right. So then we'll roll on. Maddie thinks he's better than me, but all right.
I mean, I'm not saying that.
Okay, so the last thing that I feel is one of the greatest lessons that failure has taught us is that what you've learned in the pursuit of your goal, like the skills that you developed, all that stuff, you get to bring with you into your future. So I work from month to month, which a lot of people who also, you know, network marketers, or if you work from home, you probably work from month to month or quarter to quarter. And so with that being said, sometimes it's like we have this mindset that because we failed in our business, or we failed at what we did and we didn't reach our financial goal that we had, or whatever it is, it's like you forget that all the things that you learned in that month or that quarter, you're now able to start doing in the next quarter or the next month. Like, you're not starting from zero. You're not starting from scratch. So just because you didn't reach that goal, you now know, one, what doesn't work, right? But then two, you can also now come up with new things that it's like, oh, well, this would work. Now this does this, or this, whatever. You bring that energy and that wisdom and that intuition into the next month, into the next quarter. And that's something that you did not have the last quarter and the last month, which might have been why you failed. So failure can be a great teacher in the fact that, one, you obviously learn all these different skills in the pursuit of trying, but then you also know that the next time when you're trying again, you are not trying from the same space that you tried before. Like, I was a competitive gymnast, and so I have fallen a lot and broken a lot of things. And so but one of those things that it's like, for example, if I was doing like a floor routine and was just bombing it, like just not hitting anything, just falling out of all the lines and all the things, right? Every time that I try, I'm not trying from the same space that I tried before. So it's like, if I'm going to, do something, I'm now aware that when I move my hip in a certain way, it's going to throw me off a little bit more this way. I'm aware now, if I start with my ankle twisted a little bit to the left, that now it's going to twist my whole body off to the right. I'm aware now that if I start just one beat ahead, if I don't count on time to be able to tell the distance between where I am from one corner of the mat to the next corner of the mat, that it's going to throw me off and I'm going to fall off the mat. I'm aware of that now, versus the first time, the second time, the third time, I wasn't aware of all those little things. I wasn't aware of, why can't I do this? Like, this is simple, right? Or it might not be, but whatever. In my mind at the time, it's like, well, this is simple. Why can't I do this? When in reality, it's like, because there's all these little intricacies that you have to, whether it's your hip, whether it's, jumping too early, whether it's jumping too late and giving yourself too much time, or underestimating even your own strength, thinking like, oh, if I just do this, I'll be fine. When in reality, it's like, nope, now you're flying through the freaking rafters. Like, it's all those things that you have to keep in mind, that every single time that you're trying now to do that routine, you're starting from an awareness of, oh, my hip doesn't work when I do this. My foot has to turn this way. I have to jump on the 3, not on the 4. All those different things. So you're never starting from the place that you started, unless you're not learning your lesson. If you're not learning, then you're always starting from zero. But if you are, that is incredibly valuable because you're always growing and getting wiser, which makes one, getting what you want so much simpler and much more likely because you're learning from every time. But at the same time, it's truly making you wiser. So now you can teach other people, okay, that's why that's not working, because you got to turn yourself this way or whatever the case is. So that I think is one of my last greatest lessons. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with it. And I think it kind of ties back into really focusing on and enjoying the journey as well, too, because there's so many little things and big things, I think, that every single day that we realize, and we realize it through failure, because if that failure didn't happen, we wouldn't realize things that need to change.
Right.
You know, if I didn't fail to stop at that red light, I wouldn't have gotten that ticket, and I wouldn't have to pay $100 and some that I don't want to pay.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And so it's little things like that to where now the next time I go, I'm going to slow down or stop when it comes to that red light. It's little things in life that you learn. You know, and one thing that I think is important for everyone out there in Pod Nation as well, too, is to just, you know, you learn things so much every single day, even when you may not realize that you're learning them. And life is really just about a series of many different decisions that you make.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like you can make a lot of little decisions, which could lead to a great life, or you can make a couple bad decisions, which may lead to a not so great life.
Right.
You know, so being able to look at your failures, and I think you hammered away at this too, being able to learn from them.
Right.
When you're learning from your failures, not only does that allow you to find success in other things that you're doing, but it also allows you to speak to yourself more kindly. And we've talked about this before in the past too, where it's like, you know, if we're talking about last night and failures, right?
Right.
I ate at 10 o'clock at night. I woke up this morning and I felt like complete shit. It was terrible. It's a Monday morning. That was the last thing I wanted. I needed to have energy going into Mondays because Mondays suck for my job. And so it was like, that's the last thing I wanted.
Right.
And so guess what? Guess who's not eating after 10 o'clock tonight?
Right.
You know?
Lesson learned.
So, but what I'm saying, going back to speaking kind to yourself, since this has happened over time, you know, a while back, I could have looked at that and said, you know, well, why is it that you can't get your life together? Do you really have to eat after 10 o'clock? You know, you start telling yourself all of these bad things. You know, calling yourself names for eating late, not really feeling great about how you might look, and so on and so forth. And it's just like you go from being in that space where you're talking to yourself negatively to being in a space where it's like, you know, okay, you know, lesson learned. I'm not going to eat that late anymore.
Right.
And it's okay. That sucks that I had to learn the hard way. But it's okay, you know, I learned my lesson and now I'm not going to do that again. And so it just allows you to speak more kindly to yourself as well, too, because it's like, I learned something here. This wasn't just me failing. I learned something from this experience. So there's something to take away from it.
Yeah. Love that. So what's your last one?
All right. So I have a 3 and a 3B. I hope I remember this because I can't write it down.
But don't make it 20 minutes
I won't.
now. All right.
I don't. You're the long talker.
You guys, let me tell you something. We're both the long talkers here. I'll tell you that much.
That's not true. I'm a low talker.
But you got an A and a B, so I mean,
I do.
Low talker,
I do.
that's different. A mumbler and a long talker are two different things.
You're right. All right, y'all. I hope I remember this. I wrote down in my notes 7 or 37, so I hope I come back to that. I don't know. I'll be back, though. It'll make sense in a minute.
It does.
I promise. This will be good.
Here we go.
All right. So the last thing that I have for you guys, and I'm tired, y'all. It is 11 o'clock on the dot.
Okay, let's chill. If you get that reference, first of all, you're definitely our people. And second of all, calm your ass down.
Y'all, it is 11 p.m. and I am tired. It's a Monday. But I am going to perk up. I'm going to make sure that you guys hear every piece of this that I have to say because I feel very, very strongly about it. So listen very carefully. In order to be successful in anything that you do in life, whether it's losing weight, whether it's getting a promotion at work or being the best worker you can be at your job, whether or not it's starting a new business, or starting a new relationship, or doing anything in life that you want to do, that you just want to do, here's what you need to do. I'm going to use the example of going into business, right, and becoming an entrepreneur, or just changing your business right now. This is for the person out there that is unhappy with the job situation that they're in and want to be in a better situation, or own their own business, or have more freedom to do stuff. But this is also for the people out there that just have goals or dreams and expectations, and people are constantly pulling them down, right? I cannot stress this enough, guys, to put the blinders on. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Put the blinders on. Do you know what, this is for you, Lexi, do you know what blinders are used for with
horses.
But why?
Because they can get distracted by the traffic and all the things all around them.
Right. So blinders are put on horses so they can't see what is on the side of them, and they can't see what is behind them. And it was used in the olden days for horses and carriages.
It's still used today.
It is still used today. But back in the day for carriages and things like that, so horses can't see that and become distracted or become spooked, or,
right,
change their direction or do anything different from what it is specifically that they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. In the same way, if anybody is pulling you down, if anybody is detracting you, if you have any goals or dreams or anything like that in your life that you want to achieve, if there's something that you've been thinking about, if it's been on your mind, if you've been writing it down, if it's come to your mind a lot lately, if you've just been waiting for a sign, do it right now. Put the blinders on, whether or not that's jumping into a new relationship, whether or not that's quitting your job and finding something else that's more right for you, whether or not that's finally going to the gym. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. There's going to be people that are going to tear you down. There are going to be people that say, oh, this is stupid. You shouldn't date that person. You shouldn't leave your well-paying job if you don't have a backup plan. You shouldn't do any. They don't know the struggles that you deal with every day. They're not dealing with your shitty boss and shitty coworkers. They're not coming home every day and crying. They're not feeling lonely because
they're not having their mental health breakdown as a result of that too.
Exactly. They're not having any of those things, so they don't understand. And the fact of the matter is, I talk about having blinders on, and I'm not just talking about side blinders, but also back blinders, because there's not just going to be people behind you that are jealous of you because you're taking a step and you're doing something that they're too fearful to do, right? So we talk about the lioness that was sitting there ready to pounce and never did it. There's going to be plenty of people like that in your life. They might be a friend, they might be a family member, they might be a coworker, that want to do the same things that you're doing and want to do the same things that you talk about, but they're too scared to do it. And they don't want you, being honest with you, they don't want you to go off and do it because they know that you're going to leave them right behind when you do.
Speak on that truth.
And so what's going to end up happening is you just end up in a situation where, leave them behind. You have your dreams, you have your aspirations, you have those different things. And I hate to say it, but those people are holding you back.
Yeah.
Unless they're pulling you up and they're saying, hey, you go after your dreams. You do whatever it takes. If that means you have to work 20 hours a day, then you work 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
If that means that you have to embarrass yourself to go talk to that guy or talk to that girl, then you embarrass yourself and you put yourself out there. If that means that you have to quit your job and you don't have a backup plan and you got to go drive Uber or figure it out, then do it. Stop wasting time. Take the leap of faith.
Right.
And put those blinders on, because I will tell you right now, there will be people that come out of the woodwork, especially when you find a snippet of success, of any piece of success. There will be people that come out the woodwork and say, you got that, but it's not sustainable.
Right.
Can you really do this over a long period of time?
Yeah.
That job was nice where you were getting paid every 2 weeks, and now you get paid every couple of weeks, and there's going to be people that come out of the woodwork that say, hey, come, let's go to the movies instead of going to the gym tonight, or let's go out and have some drinks tonight instead of going and doing that. There are going to be people that are holding you back from what your goal is, and people that are keeping you from doing the things that you want to do.
Right.
And do not let that happen. I cannot stress enough the fact that it's just like, I tell Lexi this all the time when she talks to me about other issues that are going on in the business. Put the blinders on.
Mm-hmm.
How does that help you advance your business? How does that help you grow your business?
Yeah.
You know, that stuff matters, and let's talk about it and let's work through it, and then let's get right back to what your goal is.
Right.
Okay, we talked about it. Cool. We feel better about it. Let's move on and let's talk about how to move forward in your business, or how to get to your weight loss goals.
Right.
You know, or what our plan is going to be for, you know, moving forward in our careers and different things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
To put the blinders on. Do not let anyone hold you back. There are going to be people that are on the side of you and behind you that are constantly pulling you back and telling you can't do it or you shouldn't do it. And they're going to have a lot of good reasons.
Yeah.
So don't let them hold you back. That is 1A.
Yeah. Love that.
Thank you. 1B, which is labeled 7 to 37, is a... I don't know.
He's getting so close into the mic. I'm sorry, you guys.
Listen, I'm just passionate about it. I am sorry if I screamed at you. But I don't believe I talk as loud as Lexi, so I feel like I have to overcompensate. So, 7 or 37, right? This is a little bonus snippet, just a little bonus insight that Lexi actually taught me from a long, long while back. She didn't even mean to do it, but it's something that has stuck with me, that has been a major life lesson for me, all right? And so we're talking about the greatest lessons that failure has taught us. So the last nugget that I want to leave with you guys is, it doesn't matter who it is or what you're doing, right? Any different person could be having many varying different levels of failure at any different time. The story that Lexi told me way back when, and she didn't even realize that she did this, was she told me one time that just because a husband and wife are at home are dealing with a financial crisis and might be on the verge of divorce and their mortgage might be due and all of these different things, just because all of those things are happening at one time does not mean that you should minimize the 7-year-old kid, you know, who ran out of a blue crayon in their crayon box.
Yes. Okay,
right?
Yeah, this is something I strongly believe.
Right? And so it's like, you know, when you're dealing with failure, when you're dealing with other people around you that are failing, when you're just thinking about your own failures in life, just remember, you know, there are people of us, like I talked about earlier, I fail every day by not going to the gym. I fail every day by not coming home earlier to spend more time with Lexi every day from work. You know, I fail every day doing those things, but I'm here to remind you that you can have small failures like the 7-year-old not having the blue crayon in the crayon box, or you could have big failures like the family that, you know, is whose house is about to get repoed. But no matter what, I want you guys to remember the lessons that we taught you guys today. So I'll let Lexi do her wrap up, and then I'll do my wrap up on R3, and we'll leave you guys to it.
Well, yeah, I first want to comment on that because I have such a strong belief on that, so strong that no one's failure or struggle is less or worse than anyone else's. So it's like, one of the statements that I hate, and I've always hated it, is if you're going through like a really hard time and then someone's like, but I mean, there's kids starving in India, you know, or something. And you're like, okay, yeah, but that doesn't minimize the fact that I'm still struggling to pay my rent.
Right.
Like you didn't make me feel better because you told me there's a kid starving. Like, you know,
now
that
I
doesn't,
feel bad that there's a kid starving,
right, and I can't pay my rent. Like, you didn't solve anything. So it's like, I hate when people try to minimize your feelings or minimize your current struggle. That's true. There's a kid starving somewhere. That sucks, but I'm also struggling, and that's a reality too. And so it's the same thing if a couple is failing in their marriage or failing in their their house is about to be foreclosed. That is a huge deal. Obviously, it means so much to everyone and it affects so much. But when that child is also struggling with making friends at school or getting bullied, or they didn't do well on a research paper, or they didn't get the blue crayon, that is not less than your problem, because to that 7-year-old, that blue crayon represented something for them. It meant something to them. And the way that you teach them how to handle losing that blue crayon, handling bullying, handling not getting what you want, sets them up to be able to handle failure in the future. Right, as an adult. Because they're not going to learn how to handle future failures by you ignoring the lessons that they need to learn at the current level that they're at. They're not going to struggle with deciding if it's better to have a divorce or to not, because they're 7. They're not going to learn that. But at 7, the struggles that they're struggling with that moment, maybe they're failing in karate or gymnastics. Maybe they're failing at, they're not playing their instrument well enough in order to join band or whatever the case is. You teaching them how to handle that failure and actually acknowledging that failure and handling it means something and is significant gives them the ability to know how to cope in the future. I think why so many adults right now do not know how to cope is because as children, we often minimize children's experiences saying it doesn't mean anything because they're just a kid. When it's like, if you don't teach them how to handle the fact that, like, for example, for myself I was really into extracurricular things. Again, I was homeschooled, so my mom had me in everything. And when I first tried out for band, I didn't make it. And I had tried really hard. I had done all this, practice all these hours to try to learn the clarinet. And I remember the biggest reason was because you had to learn how to do a high C on the clarinet, which now is like super easy for me. But at the time, I didn't know how to form my mouth around the ligature, and I didn't know how to move my hands quick enough in the right position to be able to hit the high C note. You'd have to touch all these different buttons, and it was just like really hard. And so when my audition, when they came down to, like, I was doing a song and it had the high C note and I couldn't hit it. Like, I was trying so hard, and every time my clarinet would embarrassingly squeak, and I just felt really embarrassed. And I was hoping that because they could just see that I was trying so hard that they would let me in.
Right.
They did not. And in band, you have different chairs. So you have the third chair, which is like the worst, but no.
I was going to say.
You barely got into band.
Is that the C team?
Yeah, it really is. So you have third chair, then you have second chair, and then you have first chair. First chair gets all the solos. They sit in the front of the band. They tend to get like all the sexy people are the first chair. This is band nerd, kind of language, but whatever. If you played instruments, you know what I'm talking about. So first chair is where you want to be. And I couldn't even get to third chair. And I was really trying. I was trying to go for second or first. I don't know why, because it's like, that's a really lofty dream you got there, girl. But I didn't understand it at the time. But I failed the first 2 times, and I was so upset. And I had an opportunity, and luckily my parents did teach me at that point. My mom taught me how to handle that failure, that it's like, this means you have to try harder. No more excuses, no more, I'm trying to read. And at the time I was very dorky. I didn't like television, so I read a lot. So I was like, why are you reading when you should be practicing? And it was like, I don't want to, but that's why you can't play the high C, and that's why you're not in band. So it's like, it taught me that if I want to make sure that I make it next year, I gotta be serious. And so that taught me how to cope. If my mom didn't take time to actually teach me that you can't sit here and read all the time and then get upset next year when auditions happen and you miss it again, you can't get upset that, you chose books, and that was your decision. You need to find time. You need to schedule your day, figure out how you're going to practice, blah, blah, blah. So it taught me how to come back from that, how to be resilient. So, but now that lesson I still apply to my everyday life now in my 30s. Right. So it's like, you have to teach your children that, because if you don't, how will they know how to handle failure in the future? They will continue to fail. And I think that's why so many, not just they will continue to fail, failing is part of life, but they will continue to not know how to handle failure if you don't teach them as children. So don't diminish their present moment because, you're dealing with bills. Right. That's important, but them not making band is also just as important. And that's an opportunity for you to teach them how to handle it. So that way, if they grow up and they can't pay the bills, if they grow up and they realize that their marriage isn't working and that they need to find alternative, they'll know how to handle those situations a lot better because you took them seriously when they were 7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Teach them how to use yellow and magenta to make blue.
Right. Yeah, right. So I love that. So, okay, sorry, you guys, we're going really over here. So what do you kind of want to say to, because I don't really have a lot to say.
Oh, my last three things just to wrap up. I mean, these are three really important things that I want you guys to remember. It's just be resilient every day. It doesn't matter what it is. We've talked about many different things. We've talked about whether it's in the workplace and you leaving that job or becoming an entrepreneur or doing something else that elevates your life or self-development, whether it's talking to that guy or girl, whether or not it's getting in the gym for the first time because you wanted to do that, or eating more healthy, or going to bed earlier, or reconnecting with a family member. No matter what it is that you want to do, be resilient and don't give up, right? No matter what it is that you want, never give up on it and keep on pushing. Then I want you guys to remember the difference between fear and courage. Remember the story about both the lionesses. There's going to be plenty times in life where you're going to be the one that's hesitating, but there's also going to be times in life where you're going to see that other person come and jump right past you, and use that as a catapult for you to do that in your own life and the things that you want to do and chase after your dreams, right? Use the 5-second rule. If you're fearful of something, make a decision in 5 seconds and go after it. And the last thing is to never forget to always put the blinders on. Guys, you will never ever get to your dream. There's people that will call you stupid, that'll say that you're silly, that what you're doing doesn't make sense, that you're never going to be able to do it. There are so many people that are going to pull you back and hold you back from the things that you want to do just because they simply don't understand it, or because they're jealous, or because they don't want you to move forward in your life and leave them behind. But I'm here to tell you, no matter what it is that you want to do, put those blinders on and never look back and never look on the side. Just keep your eyes focused on the goal that you have, and you'll find success in your life. So these are the greatest lessons that failure has taught me personally in my life, and I hope that you guys could take some of these lessons and apply them to your life as well.
Yeah, and I love that. So I guess, I'll wrap up mine too. I guess it's the same thing, again, just a reminder that reaching the goal isn't the point of actually reaching the goal. It's the process of striving for it, and what you learn in the process, the skill set, the mindset development, the character development, the development of your consistency, of learning how to handle how you think and even identify. That's more important than whether or not you actually reach the goal. And I think to me, that's like the biggest lesson, because it changes how you can look at your failures. But then at the same time, remembering that your setback is truly your setup for the next phase. So whatever it is that you're struggling with, if you're feeling like, if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, yeah, but you don't know because I failed at this and this and this, and it's like nothing ever seems to work out for me. Recognize that all those things not working out are exactly what need to happen to propel you into wherever you're supposed to be going next. You need those doors to close so you can actually identify the open doors that are available for you next. And lastly, that remember that when you fail, because you will, right? It's a part of life. But you will, the next phase, the next month, the next quarter, the next relationship, the next whatever, you get to take all the lessons that you just learned and you bring that into the next relationship, the next job, the next business idea you have. All of those things you actually get to bring with you. You can choose not to by not learning any of those lessons, but if you choose to, you can actually now start from a place that gives you so much more wisdom to make better choices than had you not failed. And so that's always a really great way to look at, like, well, thank God I now know what not to do, Thank God I now have a better plan. I know how to prepare for this, and I know how to get around that, or whatever the case is. So I think those are really great. That's 6 great lessons that failure has taught us. So,
I think so.
Yeah. Well, we made it through. It's a little long, but at the same time, you guys, how could you not love?
Content.
Right, exactly.
Good content.
I'm definitely excited that he did. This is his first podcast, period. Right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. So sorry again for screaming at you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you guys.
I'm a low talker, so I figured I should
we'll
probably
check the
talk
audio
into the mic.
Right.
I told her to get me my own mic, but she didn't.
Listen, we got a budget here, all right?
All right.
At Lexi Wilson Studios.
You don't think these people tired of hearing us yet? All right, y'all.
Anyway, thank you so much. We'll see you
Wait.
next Tuesday.
I have an outro. Let me try
There's
it.
literally an outro
Let
available.
me try it.
Oh, here we go.
All right.
What's going on?
Don't make me laugh.
There's an actual outro.
This is not going to be an outro for real. I'm just saying. Pod Nation,
Whatever.
take the time right now to like, share, and subscribe.
Oh, coming through.
This is your ad-free The Lexi Wilson podcast. And we simply ask that you like, share, subscribe.
Right. Oh, that was great, babe. Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank
Very
you.
good job. You
This
guys,
is-
that was really great.
This is the Jason Forbes.
Oh my goodness.
AKA JC Wasey.
Jay Winsel.
I don't know how to sign off. I'm not good at these things.
No, but seriously, you guys, if you really enjoyed this, if you found yourself laughing, if you felt inspired, if you're like, wow, this was excellent, I want to listen to this again, then that means that there's probably someone else out there who also would benefit from listening. And the greatest way that you can show your support, this is a free episode, a free show. So the greatest way that you can actually show your support is literally by sharing this on your social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. And especially if you guys do it on Instagram, please tag me at the Lexi Wilson. And remember, it's Lexie. Do not forget the E. But the Lexi Wilson, tag me, and then I'll put you in my story so that way I can kind of feature you and share you out to all of my followers. But that is the biggest way you can say thank you, Lexi. And another great way that you can say thank you is by leaving a review. So on iTunes, a big way to help is by going to iTunes and actually leaving a 5-star review. You can share what you're learning from this episode or why you like this. One, it's just really encouraging for me to see how what I'm doing or what we're doing now is helping to enhance your business or your life and your mindset. But also in regards to iTunes, the way that the algorithm works is when you have more reviews and more people saying, hey, you guys should listen to this, iTunes puts us a little bit further up and makes us more visible for other people to see. So please, it means everything. I can't do this without you guys. And so if you found this to be inspiring, please share, like, and definitely, well, can you subscribe? Yes, you can subscribe on Spotify and iTunes. So,
right.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. We are out.
We are out.
We are out. Okay, bye, guys.
Okay, girl, you done finished the episode. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it with me. Now it's time for you to get out the car, go face them kids, get off the treadmill and go actually kick some ass today. You know what I mean? It's time for you to take the things that you've learned from this episode and actually go out into the world. Change your thoughts, change your life. And you got to actually implement the things that we've talked about on this show, or else you can't expect your life to change. Listen, I created this show just for you because I want to empower you. I want to encourage you so you can know that you have what it takes to make the life that you want. So it's important for you to actually, listen and then do. All right? Come on, sis. Come on, sis. Come on. Let's go. Kill it, sis. Kill it, sis. Kill it, sis. You wasn't ready. Go.